Hello everyone, it's Father Norm. I'm offering another reflection. The actual day that I'm speaking is January 21st, the one day after the inauguration of Joseph Biden as our new president. I know when we look back at that day that many people are excited and glad that he's the president, looking at going forward with hope and respond to many issues that need to be dealt with. There's other folks who did not vote for him, probably many understandably disappointed, felt that the vision they had and their way of understanding of President Trump and what he was going to do now was thwarted. There are differences. That came out even in the votes. And now, though, I do believe for all of us, and this would be true whoever won, ideally, if we can, that's real, that we would be praying for and support of the president. And so, particularly for those who maybe are disappointed, frustrated, hurt, and angered that President Trump didn't continue on, I ask you, and I ask those who did support President Biden, to all of us, to first of all pray for him. I'm very struck. At my age, I'm going to be 74 in next month, February, and I think, it's a lot to be a pastor here. Got a great staff, got a great community. That helps much. At the same time, I think about President Biden, 78 years old and taking this on. Whether you agree with him on every issue or not, whether you're bothered by some aspect of him or a policy, we need to, in some sense, say, thank you that you care enough that you took this on at the age of 78, and look at what motivates him. I think we live in an age today where a lot of people give negative motivation to anybody they disagree with. But hopefully we can see in this case, President Biden went into this because he really does, from his point of view, from his faith, which he emphasizes often, from his whole perspective on how we are meant to be as a human community, he chose to become president because he felt that he could keep those values that he ascribes to in such a way and help all of us to live them. Especially the ideal of how we can come together in unity. Not uniformity, but in unity, wherein with all our differences, we can still work where we have the common good. In fact, Pope Francis sent a letter to Biden congratulating him and speaking about those areas where we could work together. Obviously, there can be differences in some areas, but the point is looking for the common good, looking for where we can come together and make that positive difference to make America better. At the same time, if we need to challenge each other in love on different policies, we can, but that should never keep us from coming together to work on issues that make the human community better according to the values that we know God calls us to. How many of you know now the name Amanda Gorman? Some of you do, maybe many of you do. Some may have not have seen the inauguration for whatever the reason. You may have heard about her. 22 years old. She was designated recently as the Youth Poet Laureate. She's a black young woman from Los Angeles, California, and she actually read a poem at the inauguration. Kind of, for those of us old enough to remember, we can go back recently to Maya Angelou, who read a poem at Barack Obama's inauguration. We could go way back, for those of you my age, where Robert Frost read a poem at John F. Kennedy's inauguration in 1961. But here's this young woman. Most of us probably never heard of her, didn't know anything about her, and she came up to express beautifully this poem that she had written. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to just share parts of it. I can't do her justice at all. I would say this: I don't care who you voted for, what's your background. look up Amanda Gorman, on the internet, whatever way you can, because she's everywhere. And this particular poem that she read is a video there. You need to see it. But I hope for those of you who didn't, maybe my just sharing a few words and encouraging you, you'll do that. And for those who did see it, hearing these words again. And the other thing you can do, you can go to Google and the internet, and you can get the actual text of what she said, which was so powerful. Reading it is not nearly as powerful as seeing her in how she spoke from great heart and soul. But having the text is still a good thing to have. I have it. I'm just going to read a few quotes. I think part of what she says reminds us that even with all our difficulties and hurts and understandably maybe negative or cynical feelings about the future, that somehow, especially those of us who have some sense of a God who gets us through it all, that somehow we can have a measure of hope. And hope then can lead us not to just be upset and irritated and lifeless, but hope can lead us to take our positive steps where we can be an influence to make this nation a little better, starting with where we are, who we influence, and the kind of attitudes and values we show. Here's just a part of her poem. Again, the poem itself is expressed, and it comes from something called The Hill. Well, she wrote it, called The Hill We Climb, which is very striking too, talking about this time in our history. The Hill We Climb. It reminds us there's effort. There's effort in going forward as a nation and becoming better. And it's the hill we do climb. We don't just say, oh, it's a hill, I can't bother, I got enough, I'm tired enough. No, a hill is out there, but we can climb it. And we can climb it with hope that we will get to the top of that hill, that we will get to where the Lord God calls us to be. Not in any one lifetime, but doing our part in our lifetime. Here's just a part of what she wrote. And again, I'd love you to get much more than this, to see the whole essence and see her video. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We choose the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first, I should have said that better. The statement is, we close the divide because we know to put our futures first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. The hill we climb, if only we dare, it's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? But one thing is certain, if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. And every known nook of our nation and every corner called our country, our people diverse and beautiful will emerge, battered and beautiful. When day comes, she said this much better, when day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, and this is her ending lines, there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Please, even if you watched it that day, video it, pick it up again on the internet, save it, have something you can look at, share it with your children. Again, she shared it in such a beautiful, passionate way. I didn't do this at all justice, but if I gave you a sense of maybe looking into it and reading it and getting in touch with it, that's a good thing. May God bless you.